This meeting of the Sedona Fire District Government Board is called to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Silence for those who serve our country, our police officers and firefighters who passed since our last meeting.
Let's take a moment to remember the 11 police officers that have passed since our last board meeting.
Thank you.
Roll call. Helen McNeely, Chair.
Present.
Corey Cooperman, Clerk.
Present.
Diana Christensen.
Present.
Lance Waldrop.
Here.
Scott Springett.
Here.
Chief Mizoulas.
All right.
Staff to recognize.
Yes, our COVID generation, if you will, is hitting the 5-year mark. And,
Wow.
It's, I can't believe it because it seems like it's gone by so fast. I don't know how it's felt for you. Yesterday. So one of them was able to make it today. I'm going to go through the 3 that aren't here, and then we'll get Anthony up here. Pardon me. First one to recognize it is Jordan Lessie. Hired, they're all 10/19 of 2020, and hired as a firefighter EMT, and in 2024 completed paramedic school. We got Jordan from the Forest Service, and all these guys are up and comers in this organization. It's going to be exciting to see that 5-year mark is kind of a tipping point where they get a level of comfort. All of these guys are heavily involved with project management already, and really doing stuff to move the needle forward. So it's pretty exciting. And then next we have Kyler Lee, again hired in 10 of 20, and got his paramedic in 11 of 20, and then he got his task book done for engineer in May of 25. And then we've got Ryan T-Ball, hired as a firefighter EMT, 8 of 24, acquired his medic certification, and as stated, all these guys do a lot of project management. Lastly, and present, we have Anthony Heckler. And like as stated, 10 of 2020, Anthony came to us from the Marine Corps, and his extreme interest in security has led him to be our lock and key guru. And he has some of the most power in the organization because with the swipe of a keystroke, he can shut off access to this building or change doors. But no, beyond that, great crewmate, great addition to our team, and yet another one that's going to be powering through the ranks. And the future is bright and hopeful for us folks that have been here a little bit longer. We got folks that are going to be ready to take the reins. So with that, I'll have you come up and present you your pin. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Speech? No? You don't have to. It's just something I make people do to make them nervous.
Oh, that's fine. I definitely appreciate working for this organization, serving this community and the people that reside here. I don't live here, but I do believe that this is my second home. This, like I was telling Chief Mizoulas, this 5 years really have flown by. I'm excited to see where the next 20 leads, 1 for my personal career and 2 for Sedona Fire in general.
Who's with you?
Obviously, my wife, my main supporter. My main supporter, she's been with me for these last 5 years and has supported me through, juggling Marine Corps reserves and this new career I have, and couldn't have done it without her.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If I should give in to the urge to ask you, Anthony,
Yes.
if when you started 5 years ago, you had hair.
I did have more. Last year with training with my current engineer to finish my engineer.
Okay,
Good answer.
good answer. Okay. Chief Mizoulas, do we have any members of the public?
We do not.
Okay. All right. So let us move to the consent agenda. And we have the regular meeting minutes from September 16th, 2025. And can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as outlined.
Thank you. Any comments and changes?
Second.
Oh, second, sorry. Yeah, I'm just rattling along.
All right.
Okay. And, but any comments or questions, feedback? Okay. So with that, all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Boldra, our financial report.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. You guys have the September financial report in the packet. We brought in a little over $1,055,000 for the month of September. That was over what our budget target was by $440,000. Property tax collections making up the largest percentage of that, so we are kind of collecting revenue quicker than we have historically. So that's a good problem to have. And then on the non-levy revenue side as well, over budget by $188,000. Wildland revenue and ambulance revenue are the predominant drivers of the overage for the month. Looking at our expenses, we're at $1,812,000 in total expenses. That is over budget by $16,900. As you can see, that's driven by a couple of categories. Personnel, the largest variance, over budget by $62,900. That was due to wages and benefits for those wildland deployments that we had in the month of September. As well, buildings and land was over budget by $11,000. There's a number of repairs to Station 1, both deposit on some roof repairs, as well as garage door repair, which are kind of some of the larger items that hit in the month of September. Looking at the rest of the categories, you can see we're all kind of either at budget or under budget. Next. Year to date, so we're first through the first quarter of the fiscal year. Right now, we're sitting at $2,238,000 in total revenue. That is over budget by $839,000. Again, that money we collected this month on property tax really kind of pushed up forward year to date, as well as our non-levy revenues, and that's kind of that $500,000 is made up of overages on ambulance revenue, wildland revenue, and our interest income, the money that we're making on our savings with the county. As far as expenses go, we're at $5,754,000 in total expenses. In totality, we're under budget by $255,000. Again, as you can see, we are under budget, pretty much in every category, with the exception of buildings and land, and really just our facility maintenance is what's driving that small variance there in that category. Yes.
Yeah, Dave, in the personnel, we're still under budget, but we're inching towards equality there. And I just month by month, but this is a bigger inching towards it. How is our personnel budget doing going forward?
So overall, what's really driving kind of these numbers that you're seeing here is wildland deployments. So when I look at our regular wages and our overtime, those are, the delta of those two is still under budget. We've got some savings in regular wages that's, being eaten up a little bit by overtime.
Yeah.
So we're still under overall. When we see us inching together more, it's because of wildland deployments, which we are reimbursed on by the state. So it's essentially a budget neutral item for the district. So as long as, I'm not worried about this because of what's causing us to creep closer towards
Even though this is a quarter, this isn't just this month of.
Right, this is
issue
the
with
quarter,
wildland,
correct.
so- But you're still feeling good.
Correct, yes,
Okay.
especially as we go into all the moisture. I'm sure Chief Coyle could talk a lot more intelligently about this than I can. But we're seeing less opportunity for deployments with just the moisture in the area. And so I anticipate as we kind of see the second quarter of the year, we're not gonna have much in wildland wages and hopefully continue to see the trend of savings on our regular in-district personnel costs.
Thank you.
And again, also too, the other thing I'll point out too, is there's nothing wrong with us being in line with budget. We're also used to being so far under budget. That there's nothing wrong with us being in line with budget. That means we're staffed completely and we're not crazy over on, needing to utilize overtime because of vacancies or things like that, or injuries. And so we're doing okay.
Thank you for the reminder.
Yes. As far as percentage of budget, we've spent 24% with 76% remaining. Breakdown, personnel highest expense at 86% of total costs. Operations at 6%, and both communication and managerial are both at 4%. Year over year, a small decrease in cash position, about 278,000. A lot of that is being driven by last year. At the same time, we had a very high accounts payable balance. And so we just had some current bills and payments that wasn't made in September that we already paid out this year. But we're only under by about 278,000 year over year. Looking at our cash position, we're still on track to continue move forward with our planned reserves for this year. Other assets increasing from 23 to 27 million. A lot of that's the investment in capital asset we've had over the last year. And then total liabilities decreasing from 33.8 to 32.8, which is about a full $1 million decrease. About 300,000 of that decrease is just the normal payoff on our long-term liabilities. The other 700,000 is that large payable we had last year that was dragging that also disparity in cash as well. With that, that concludes my report for September.
Any questions for Gabe? Okay, then can I have a motion to approve the financial report for September 2025?
I move to approve the financial support for September of 2025.
We'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you.
Okay, monthly staff reports, Chief.
All right, start with Chief Blow.
Good afternoon, everybody. Right, I have a list. So I broke this down into the different functional areas that I cover, and I don't put them all on the slide because frankly it would be a lot of words. So we'll just go down in order. So first thing with HR and administration, the main efforts this month have been personal records modernization, which means digitizing all the personal files. Not sexy, but super handy. Gets a lot of paper out of the office, makes it easier to retrieve things, and has to be done and can improve our compliance and retention, so we don't inadvertently throw away stuff we should keep, and we don't keep things that we don't have to pass when we have them, because even if the records retention law says we'll have to keep something for 7 years, if we still have it and there's an inquiry, we're obliged to search and produce. So there's good reasons to stay on the line. Recruitment, pre-onboarding for the 2025 firefighter class is nearly complete. I believe it's a November 3rd start. I'm sure Joe will go into that more. And the IT system specialist has been advancing that with the intent to have interviews later on this month. So there was about 120 applicants. There was about 10 to 15% of those that were made it past the first cut. It is much easier these days for people to augment their resumes and submittals. And so
That would be AI.
yeah, that would be a little AI. And so there was a questionnaire that was produced that Josh actually helped produce. That's been very useful for that, because when people don't fill out the questionnaire, then we just cut them off the further part. Because when someone says they live in the US and then you look on their LinkedIn and that's not accurate, then it's nice to be able to use the fact that they didn't complete a component of the requirement as the reason why they are no longer being considered for the position. Policy and process updates. So Littler and Associates, our employment law firm, provides us with a generic version of HR handbook, basically, that aligns with the different state laws. I mean, it's nice to have them, all the research stuff they go into that. And so HR is working to refine the policies and make sure that, especially when it comes to internal workflows, and that there's a process there. And basically the goal is to not Sedonify anything that doesn't need to be Sedonified. So if there's a policy, especially when it comes to a compliance type policy for FLSA, all the different 4 letters that Department of Labor can saddle us with some significant fines if we don't follow. Stick with what the people that we will ask to defend us say that we should do, unless there's a compelling reason not to. Once we get that all done, then we will ship it back to Littler to have them review any of our changes before we put them in to make sure. Professional development, film here, no, I told her she didn't have to come in here, so she didn't. But she's going to be supporting a regional training effort by presenting at the Battalion Chiefs Academy. Yeah, and she is nervous and excited and being a little bit upset with Chief Mazulis for volunteering her.
She was asked and accepted the opportunity.
Yeah.
She's done, I have to partner this
Sure.
because of your comment. She does a fantastic job for us as it relates to many things, including human resources. And the region has recognized that through her interactions. And because of that, they asked if she would come talk to potential new battalion chiefs about the pitfalls and struggles of being a mid-level manager, managing human resources because of her reputation. So she was kind of voluntold, but yeah.
And true to form, she reached out, and I know got response from at least a couple of us about the some of the issues that we, if we look at the way back time machine when we were new battalion chief, some of the challenges that we faced. And so I think she's put a significant effort into making sure that it's case-based and it's interesting for them and it's relevant.
She's gonna do great.
I think she will. I'm confident she will. Operations, and I put logistics because a little bit of stuff that Jeff told me in here too. So still supporting on-duty engineer candidate training, and we've reaffirmed what safety and compliance rules are for that as it relates to on and off duty. We need to make sure that we allow people the opportunities to train, that their crews, on-duty crews, support that training effort, and that we don't have people do things that impact our readiness while they're off duty. So that should be interpreted as meaning that you can't take trucks out of service when you're off duty to train, but we will make sure that your crews are supporting you while you're on duty to accomplish that. And hard chargers, that's a good thing to have to do to kind of rein them in, but I'm like, yeah, you're gonna do that on duty. Equipment, they deployed the new air monitoring equipment. So it's an uneasy feeling when you walk into an area where you have a bunch of people with symptoms that are maybe CO poisoning, and you don't have confidence in the equipment that you're using to monitor the air levels. So the previous equipment we had was very expensive to maintain, and it would come out of calibration quickly. And it's interesting, it's probably a lot like buying something where the sticker price is such, and then you find out that get a new cartridge or whatever for the device. Razors, I think, are a great example, right? You buy the one razor and it's like, oh, it's cheap. Then you go buy a 5-pack of the replacement blades, and like, holy cow, that's where they get you. And it was that way with our last monitor. The gas it used and the amount that it would purge for its calibration in between each use on the automatic calibration machine made it very cost prohibitive. So then, you run out of gas, you don't have money in the budget. You're like, should we calibrate as often, or did we go over on budget? And the new air monitoring equipment corrects that issue.
A question
Sure.
on this, is this air monitoring for our facilities, or is this portable to take to somebody's home?
It's portable.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
portable, and it's I think these are 4-gas monitors instead of 5-gas monitors, but it's
Handheld?
handheld.
Uh-huh.
But carbon monoxide is, I think, probably the most frequent use for it. And so, when you go into a structure and you're trying to identify why these people don't feel well and the criticality of it, you want to have confidence in those numbers. And this will allow them to have that confidence. Next month, they're going to do all the hose testing, which is literally all the hose, all the structural hose. And that's always fun. It's a fun little endeavor. But we used to do it. We used to do it on Christmas Eve a couple times.
We did.
Oh.
All the time.
The candy.
Yeah, that was fun. New Year's Day, we did it once, yeah. So, someone tried to punish us and we were unfazed. They don't work here. Yeah. That wasn't bad. They're also working to update all the PPE data and overhaul for accuracy. So that, we have an NFPA standard that we have to adhere to for cleaning and for the age of the equipment and everything, and making that system easier to manage is going to be a big win. And we also had a great meeting about uniform and policy and alignment and difference between PPE, personal protective equipment, and uniform issues, and how we can make sure that we are providing clarity. So we have a policy that is easy for people to align to, easy to administer, and easy for Elise and the rest of the Isaiah to administer and to do it well. So station maintenance, there's ongoing station maintenance, the 1 and 6 especially, and then since Scott doesn't have a speaking role, I'll say there's some HVAC stuff in the works. It's going to keep us. We had this great plan when most of the new big equipment here that we were going to replace it when it got to the theoretical end of life. So it was like 15 years or something. Other priorities took place, and we didn't have a Scott to help us keep us on track, and everybody's doing it as a side job, and we never did that. So hopefully nothing breaks before he gets it fixed. So that's the goal. And then legal and compliance, and there's 3 different communications and technology agreements that we are close on 2 of them to being across the finish line, and 1 of them, I hope we're close. They're work. And then continue to work on the early stages of the performance management initiative and developing the framework and everything to be able to support accountability and professional growth there. The public records process, and then for me personally, different regional collaboration about wildland with all the different changes that have taken place at the federal level and the trickle down effects of those. Some of them are more like cascading down avalanche effects. Other ones are more like trickle down. So basically the month has been focused on modernization, compliance, and readiness, and emphasizing digital transformation, policy alignment, and risk management.
Any updates around your work in the world of insurance?
We have monthly meetings. I forgot the name of the acronym, but nothing. So I did a podcast for the IFC this month, and they asked me what I thought about wildland and INTs, and I think this will kind of answer your question. But I said that with incident management teams, we will continue to relax the standards to align with the resources that are available until such time that we have catastrophic failure and we have to regroup. And with wildland fire, yeah. So it was a national podcast. I was like, hey, you asked. And for wildland fire, I said that the different agencies having jurisdiction all contribute to the problem about growth in the urban interface and all need to be a part of the solution. And until such time as they admit that and take on that responsibility, it'll get worse. And then insurance companies will continue to look at ways to remain profitable, and we will suffer consequences because of that. And so there has not been any substantive moves. I've tried at the county levels, an area where on both county sides, I've suggested things about how we can get some compliance things into, through the, I can't remember the acronym, but for the insurance people in Phoenix that approve. You can't just say like, hey, State Farm, we're gonna give you 10% off if you do the wildfire prepared homestead. It has to go through to be approved. But we got someone to be the first one to go through and do something like that and see if people will. The unfortunate part is that the standard that is supported by science is much more stringent than I think people would be comfortable with, because there's a 5-foot no combustibles around your head. There's no bushes, no anything else, and there's
I'm
other
sorry,
things.
no what?
A 5-foot zone,
Right.
no combustible material, no bushes, no trees, anything like that. And so people want to do that, and I get it. I don't want to do that. And so that, and IBHS is basically, they're like the National Institute of Standards for the insurance company. So they're scientists that advocate for things that help make homes more defensible in a fact-based and a research-based way. But there'll have to be some development, and maybe it is and they're talking about doing a couple pilots in California and Oregon, but a hybrid between Firewise and those IBHS, those science-backed standards, to where we can educate people in a way that makes it meaningful for the insurance companies to adopt. That's the step. So I will continue to be a part of those, as painful as they are.
What was the name of the podcast you were in?
That was the Wildfire Wednesdays on the IFC. I think they did it live too. I was like, don't do things live. You could say things that I shouldn't, like I did probably.
We appreciate you.
And listen to the lead, but it was a good conversation. So I wish I had better news about that.
And in this kind of a follow through on fire issues, Mr. Boldra said that perhaps there's less need for wildland in the next quarter. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
So historically, this time of year, everything except California is kind of out of play, and that is the way that this year's shaping up. Crazy for us, right? We had those two within 10 days. We got 5 inches of rain in Flagstaff and more down here, I think.
Yes.
But yeah, that kind of put a pin in it for California. Will basically if they get Santa Ana wind set up for a week at a time, then it just changes everything. It's just that Mediterranean field type. They did the winter outlook, and it is a weak La Nina, but a weak La Nina. So with 1 degree either side of ENSO neutral of average, if you will, the correlation between it being drier than normal is not very good, not very strong. It's a very weak correlation. It just tends to be warmer than normal on a La Nina. So, but that year that we had 6 foot of snow, like 4 or 5 years ago, it was actually a weak La Nina, and it was supposed to be. So, right? If you don't like what the statistics say, what the data says, then try to find some anomaly that you experienced and hope that happens again. That's the model I'm under right now. So we have another one of those wet years, but statistically speaking, it should be warmer than normal, and it may be wet or drier than normal. It's unlikely that it is a wetter than normal winter. So that will kind of indicate what our next fire season is.
Thank you.
Full of good news, huh?
Chief Lukowski.
No, Kirk.
Oh, Kirk, sorry.
Oh, good
Hi.
afternoon. So I'll touch on a couple things and then we'll get to. So to start numbers, everything's going up. We're doing good. They did have one fire investigation. It was an interesting one where solar panel got damaged by nobody was there. It's where it was lightning. It lit the ABS pipe going through the roof on fire, burned like a candle down through the attic space, down to the wall space, under the house to the subfloor until it burned itself out. And that was a very interesting fire.
Yeah.
I bet. Those you don't see very often, but that does happen. And it has happened once before, years and years ago. That's kind of what clued me into it. Because at LaBerge, they had almost the same thing. They thought they had the fire out, but the ABS pipe was still burned. It just burned slow. That's a very interesting
That was
fire.
my neighbor.
That was your neighbor?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah.
Around the block.
Yeah. They were out of town, moved his home, came home. Dad called me and said, "Hey, I need you to do a report for me." And I got there and went, "Well, there's more to this than just a damaged solar panel." So that was interesting. A couple pub incidents going on in town. There's been quite a bit. There's some that we don't even know about that have been going on. So a lot happening in October in Sedona. Smoke alarm walk for the Rainbow Trail Park got rescheduled for November 21st. Now I just got confirmation yesterday afternoon. So I'll kick out an email on that. And our office right now is working on the 2024 International Fire Code and the Interface Code for adoption. And that's going to be in line with All the other agencies in the Verde Valley are moving the same code. The city is moving the same code. Yavapai County is now going the same code. So all of us will be in the same code set.
Great.
That's huge. It's a lot of work.
Well, and we may be quote ready, but our intent is to align with the adoption of the other agencies. So it's kind of a regional rollout.
Everybody will be on the same page and there's not, you do it differently here, they do it differently there. So I'll be all the same.
Yay.
That's
And
great.
plus, it's all addressing now more new technologies, battery energy storage systems, solar charging stations, all those things are now in the 24 code that weren't really addressed in the 18. A lot of new stuff in there.
You get interface code too.
Yes, we're gonna adopt 24 well interface code along with it. We're in the 18 right now. And if you look at the two of them, there isn't a ton of difference. Some binding stuff, so. Gonna be good. All right, our fee schedule.
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not till we get there. You can wait.
Oh, I thought it was on the agenda for that.
It is, but it's agendized.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I can.
That's not the only one who's jumping in.
Somebody's told me. Somebody's gonna tell me.
Simmer down, simmer down.
He's so excited.
Eric, I had a question.
Yes.
Were any of the owners of short-term rentals for the previous month reach out to you for a fireworks console?
Not to my knowledge, no, not for short-term rentals.
One of the things I've noticed, see, my neighborhood leads the city, in number of short-term rental saturation styles with beds. And, the properties are not being kept up. So if you can imagine, all right, let's say you're a landowner, have a house, you might be a little bit more conscientious about, shrubs and trees and managing greenery and fuel. Well, if you buy a property, this is hypothetical, it's just my opinion. You buy a property and then turn it into an STR and then just hire a contractor to come in and just keep it benchmark. In other words, just cut the grass, blow some dirt around, and that's the end of that. They're not in the business of saying to the owner, you know what, you're having some encroachment issues. So for landowners like such as myself, almost a 70% saturation. It's really, that's where my concern of, okay, when's my insurance going to get canceled? Go up,
Well, there's some,
Yeah.
That should be real. Yeah.
there's currently a lawsuit in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, about a family that died in a STR fire, and the house was found to not be up to fire code. And it's a heavy hit against Airbnb, and I would imagine the outcome is probably going to be maybe some teeth for us to be able to do something with that. Would be my hope.
So I know it's a leading question to you, and I appreciate you answering it, but I just want to make sure it's documented on the record. Because,
So,
sorry.
no, if you're in the city limits, and a lot of times, because I can go out there and say, I recommend you do this. I can't stroke a ticket or anything like that and say, you will. But the city of Sedona code enforcement can.
And they just briefed me yesterday on that. And apparently we have a new officer. The new position was created. So we're actually going to have a code enforcement officer for SPRs.
Oh,
And
good.
that's their lane. And, the other code folks, can worry about, illegal basements.
And the good thing is they just put like 7 of their people through the Firewise class. Right here in Sedona. So they're getting more on board with Firewise and not being like, you can't take that tree out. Yeah, put a tree there. They're more, okay, yeah, we can get this.
Yavapai County doesn't have that equivalent position.
They do.
They do. They have a
They
code
have a code
enforcement.
enforcement also. Yes.
Okay.
And that's where I have 3 different code enforcements. I just talked to one in Flagstaff this afternoon about an STR in the canyon because we have Oak Creek Canyon, which is Coconino Canyon.
Sure.
So depending on where you live is who I'm gonna make a phone call to.
It's super simple.
Thanks,
We're all on the
appreciate
same page.
Okay, great.
Okay. Chief Lukowski.
Sometimes you make sure that I hit them all, so I want to make sure I'm going in order for you. An update on EMS actually that came in today, so I guess that's pre-board meeting. One of the things we discussed with Gabe and Elise and Chris Ahern, our ambulance biller, was the impacts of CMS Medicare billing for ambulances. And so today we decided to put a hold on our billing because we recommended by the experts. There's a lot of details with it, but that got lifted today, though the recommendation is still to hold. And so we talked about revenue in the next couple of months. That's a piece it'll have a dip. Historically, my understanding is people do recoup of that, though it takes time. One of the reasons they're recommending to hold still is people that are billing through MACs, which are like these insurance billing regional hubs for Medicare. They're not. There's a risk they're not getting their bonus stuff, the urban, rural, and super rural bonuses. So for us, it might be we get part of it, and then we still don't get that. Some of those things stopped on September 30th, so there might be a refund issue. So we're going to still hold on that. But that's a really relevant thing in the world right now. The good news is for our organization, we have the cash flow. It creates, for those that don't, it creates more of a tension there because they need that no matter what, even if it's short, even if it's a hassle to recoup later. So we're staying the course so far, but that's kind of the timely thing that happened today. We didn't deal much with it. It was pretty quick answer because of the folks that we have. It's chief music's recommendation as well. There's definitely impacts with a lot of these things.
Well, I want to be clear. My recommendation was based on PWW, who is the premier law firm that handles EMS, everything in the United States. And they batted 100% with everything that's ever occurred that we've dealt with. And they are very aggressive about putting out national recommendations when things like this happen. And to this point, it's right now we can go get a snack at a gas station or wait a few weeks, hopefully a few days, and go get a meal.
I think on the board's edification is we essentially, for a large number of our transports, we have super rural add-on, which is about 22.5% on top of the Medicare reimbursement. Right now, because of the government shutdown, that ended at the end of September. So we can go through and we could process claims right now, which we would receive our normal Medicare reimbursement, but we would lose that 22.5% add-on. Now, when the government does reopen, and if they do continue that, they'll go back and correct that and refile, but then you're now trying to basically refile and try to get something after the fact from the government. And so given where, we're at from a cash flow perspective, Medicare is not, it is one of the larger percentages of our population from an ambulance revenue perspective. It's not critical to our operation, if we have to go, 2 weeks, a month, with the delay on that collection.
Good.
So that's in order to avoid a mess down the road, we decided to hold and wait till the government hopefully reopens here. And then that Medicare add-on piece gets included in whatever, budget gets passed or community resolution gets passed. And then we can collect all that.
Billing and rebilling through a private billing company on our behalf sounds miserable. It's not been successful. Couple other things that took my time this past month. Worked with Yavapai County. They're trying to, I think they're trying to find ways to make the resources that are available as far as health, community health, more accessible to people in rural Arizona. And the county doesn't have a lot of satellite buildings and things like that. So focused on our area and then joining with other resources within the Greater Liberty Valley area in order to kind of draw from that here. Sometimes Sedona, they don't plant some of those resources here. However, there's a need here as well, for sure. So work with them. I don't know how that would really impact us. It's more things that when we're sort of, our folks are the tip of the spear with the people in need. we may be the only encounter that person has with someone that might have a gate to other resources that they can offer. And so that was really one of the reasons that I was getting involved was we can then train our folks to say, hey, when you encounter this person, you might be, like a classic example around here would be a shut-in. Their children and family live quite far away. They have chronic illness, but not anything that's keeping them from thriving and things like that. But they still have need other help. And then all the way down the spectrum to the ones where we need to call adult care. There's a lot of resources on the books and not a lot of resources available.
Buzz, how does this fit with the network that Cordova Valley Caregivers has the grant to develop?
Yeah,
You know, part of-
I believe, and Chief was probably answer better than this, they would be, the county would rely on them and they would rely on the county. That's kind of how it goes. They both kind of point both ways, depending on the need. And so I don't know how they're directly integrated with the county, but they are a county resource that the county references, the Cordova Valley Rural Health Network. And it walks a lot in aligned with them, but specifically, I am not sure.
And as we better, we've got some meetings scheduled with Cordova Valley Caregivers to better understand their expansion, if you will. And as we better understand what it actually is, I think the work Buzz is doing and the relationships we've built at Sedona Fire will be able to leverage the relationship between the county and Cordova Valley Caregivers and be a resource for them, because we've built a lot of relationships and hope to create an environment where the county has a stronger desire to put resources in our district and help Cordova Valley navigate it. So very much in its infancy, and we'll see.
It's really partitioned and siloed still. I felt that this move with some of these folks from the outside county was to try to disassemble this and then reconstruct it. Even if it's a partnership, and that is a helpful avenue for folks who need it. Similarly, Chief Missoula is kind of the same track because I attended from the EMS component. We went through a homelessness. I don't remember the name of the event.
The Sedona Area Homelessness Coalition.
They had a study based on the whole Verde Valley of homelessness and impacts and how to provide services for them and some data and things like that. And we met a few people that, again, I met afterwards and exchanged information so that we could plug our folks in and say, hey, if we encounter someone who's living rough, then how can we get them, again, plugged in with correct resources? There's again, another misnomer with our area. There are underhoused people living in their cars, living in all over, one of the key components that I often don't think of is if people that are doubled up, they called it.
Yeah.
So multiple families in one home, just because they got a job here, so they all move there, and there's a capacity issue, and they're still marginally making it. A lot of it, was housing prices, but there are some boot level things that can be mitigated. So
there are two mechanisms to evaluate homelessness as a lifestyle or as a living status.
Yeah.
One is basically a federal definition, and the other one is specific to school-age kids. And it's frustrating because by the nature of living off the 525 road, they would consider you homeless. However, an influencer in their 20s living in a $150,000 converted van is not homeless. They have a Starlink internet and they're making $100,000 a year. So, but the system that classifies homeless is broken as well. So there's a lot of layers of unwinding with that as well.
yeah, they do a thing called point in time accounting, which is a flaw. I wouldn't look it up too much. It's super frustrating. But whatever the point in time as they define it, depending on the locale and the region, it really means at this moment we're going to go out and count you for underhoused.
And we do that here in Sedona, yes.
We
because
do.
we have
People
to.
do. It's part of the way that you get funded, sadly. However, the numbers are flawed completely because it's by nature a transient, unheard from population a lot of times. So there's a lot of better metrics to try and capture it, and then that would lend people to understand the problem, if you will, in its greatest extent, and the reality of it, maybe. But right now, it's very under accounted for, and a lot of people unheard, especially if the vibe of your community might not support you living in your car and things like that. It's all say about that. They don't want to be counted. And so we went at it very like Switzerland, just try to get folks as we encounter them plugged into the right resource.
It's really hard to differentiate though between lifestyle choice and genuine need.
It really is. So there's a COC model of accounting, I believe it's called continuum care, maybe. But it's every time something within the system encounters someone who's underhoused. Then they accumulate all of those encounters. And they can go, is this the same person? Or is this the same person? Then that gets a better accounting. It's still not the best. So there's a really great, I'll do a plug for a nonprofit called Hope House in Sedona. That's a fantastic organization. Pretty much these guys who were paid consultancy came and then they said, let's have them talk. and they are very squared away. One employee and nothing but volunteers. Just really trying to make it go for primarily women with children that are school age up to a certain age, but they don't turn you away. They have a always open policy. So we can point people to them, and they'll, even if they can't apply to their specific resources, they'll point them in the direction to other resources that they're partnering with. So it's
The other piece that's personally frustrated me is there are a lot of funding mechanisms for underhoused veterans. And there are well-established programs through the VA and other resources to get them assistance. But a lot of these pop-ups have added veteran services to their mix because to chase the grant funding. And so whereas the default was send them to the VA or send them to this veterans organization, now something that you would never think has a veterans component is snagged it to get some funding. And so it pollutes the water, it muddies the water. And so that was part of us getting involved is as our crews are out there, giving them the right answers of what the right questions to ask and right resources to put people in the direction. So more to learn on that. It's interesting.
Yeah. Sorry that took so long. Let's see what else. Continue going to all the state meetings for EMS and pre-hospital medicine.
How's that new director for DHS?
Yeah, I don't know. There isn't one yet. No new director. There are some other folks that are really making a go at it. The committees are still live. They're still changing protocols and curriculum and things like that. But we'll see. And that dovetails into then Northern Arizona Healthcare working on some interfacility transfer things still with them, especially in light of the truth and rhetoric involved with the folks in tragically that died in Timber Mesa's fire district. Our medical director understands the risk. Truly, it's one of his lead-in things when he talks to other hospital administrators. He's a pre-hospital director. He cares about minimizing the risk as much as he can. The piece that the conclusion we keep drawing is that the Sedona Emergency Center or Medical Center, it is not a hospital. And so it does not have the services that require people to be on standby or a long-term stay in the ED. There's not food there. There's not the appropriate beds for someone to sit there for 10 hours. It's limited space. And so we truly are on that community health spectrum to try and get people transferred as quickly as possible to the appropriate facility. The onus doesn't fall to us. However, we care about the community too, and they can't sit there forever. So we're balancing that with crew risk. And that is from one day to the next, a very tenuous, like it's just a difficult piece. I will say though, that we do not have completely conflicting priorities with the hospital as far as these things go. And there's headway there that I keep saying every time that we haven't experienced in the past. Recently, the director of the EDs with all the NH emergency departments. He contacted me so that I could go over some data to see if they're doing it right with the transfers. And that has never happened before, mostly because our data is better.
One
So,
specific to our Phoenix transports, something that I was running numbers on the other day, it caught my eye and I had to confirm with Buzz, is 50% of our Phoenix interfacility transports are Cornville, Rimrock, Camp Verde, Cottonwood zip codes. So the anecdotal trend that we thought we were seeing is we're getting data on, and what that is the Verde Valley's coming to Sedona Emergency Center because they can get right in. And so then that creates more interfacility transports to Phoenix for us. And so because the hospital can't hold them, and there are many diagnoses, if they improved their services at Sedona Emergency Center, they could hold and monitor those patients overnight. So a lot of these patients. So Buzz, I'm glad it's popping up now, not when I was in there.
Well, let me ask you a question though. Are you sensing, I hear all the enthusiasm and positive progress, but are you sensing any interest in doing the things that are needed at the Sedona Emergency Center to make it more robust?
yeah, in fact, this is the way I see it. No one has told me this from Northern Arizona. There are some facts woven in. I'm going to make some conjecture at the end. They're moving, the plan is to move the cancer center to Cottonwood on an existing property adjacent to the hospital. They believe that would be by 2027, I think, because that's a build situation. There's quite a lot of square footage in the cancer center at the Sedona Medical Center that is behind the ER or around that bend, same location. So naturally, when they said, hey, we're moving, I went, and our medical director, Dr. Lott, said, I want that too, because what I was going to say was expand your ED, right? An emergency department, even if it's not by bed, it's by capability, you know? And so it's, that's up for grabs. What I will say though, is the feeling was it's unlikely that they're going to expand the ER much, but it's early days. There will be an opportunity for community comment to NAH to see what the community feels the need might be. And I will most definitely keep fire chief and fire board.
You can express the
Yeah, please do keep us
And I don't know the
informed.
timeline. They're still there. They're not moving, but they're gonna work on that beforehand.
Yeah,
Even if
please
they
do
could
keep
get
us.
food, I will. Even if they could get food in there, that'll really help our situation. We can hold people longer and
Yeah.
and things. It's safely.
Yeah.
If we can. So
And I would assume the numbers are going up. If we've got people from surrounding communities coming here, then are they,
correct.
when the
It's-
numbers going up
They're
support?
going way up. And
Yeah.
I do not have a number from before we thought it might be a problem.
Yeah.
It's also their data. Yesterday, I was, it might not have been yesterday, but I was with the nursing, the charge nurse for the ED, Chrissy and I were talking, and she had mentioned the census at SEC, just in the ER. And it's almost 8,000 people a month go to the ER. No,
compared
excuse me.
to-
beer.
No, yeah, 8,000 people a year. And that equated to some months, 900 people are in that ER with really 4.5 beds. So and then we have 50% of people transferred out are coming from other nearby communities. And then if they have to get transferred away, the hospital hates that. They want you in their hospital, in their system for as long as possible. When they transfer, it's an instant loss of revenue. They're not mercenary about it. It's the way business works for hospitals. So they don't like that. But that number is crazy for that little ER.
Well, it seems that number would speak to the need to expand.
I think so too. And that was from them. I said, hey, what is it? She said, it's 7854 or something was the last year. And I said, wow, that's this many per month. She said one month it was 900 people. I do know right now they're getting many, a tick upward, and speaks to need, that is leaving, there's an acronym for it, leaving without being seen. So that means people
Wow.
come in and they go, I'm out. Which is very rare for the Sedona Emergency Center. That's a Cottonwood Flagstaff, you know, where there's just so
Yeah.
fun. Anyway. Sorry about that. Couple last things. Sorry. We do some fleet stuff. I believe Chief Mazulis and I are on track with our capital plan as far as fleet is concerned. We're going to be remounting an ambulance again this budget year. And that's a more responsible way financially to do that. We're getting a new chassis, putting the old box on it. We're meeting on Monday with the distributor for that. And then hopefully one more in the next fiscal year. So we'll prime it, get it ready with the manufacturer, and then come to you all for approval on that after July. One will be in the spring, one will be in July. The lead time on those is much less. The chassis come in 30 to 60 days, and it takes 90 days to work on it and build it and put it back together. So not too bad. That way we can get two newer riding vehicles. Pardon me?
Where do they do all that?
It's in a town called
Chehalis,
Washington.
It's equidistant between Portland and Seattle.
That's a really cool.
In restaurants and the Holiday Inn Express.
Not much there at this point.
It's a very small town.
So do we take, so it takes that, at any time, it takes one out of service?
We have, right now we have 6 ambulances, so there's 2 backups. The good news is, well, this is an anecdote now because a few of them were out of service recently. Yeah, you gotta catch it at the right time. To try and send one. A little bit of a roll of the dice.
Thanks.
And then engines, this last thing about the fleet, but it's a good move. We talked about 60% increase and 4+ year lead times in that industry. So I attended a little symposium with the Western Fire Chiefs Association that, because it's been in Congress and different things, the discussion on the delays especially. And Western Fire Chiefs Association, which is a regional group of the greater International Association of Fire Chiefs, they're not waiting around for someone else to fix it. And so they went direct to Pierce Manufacturing through Hughes, which is our dealer in Phoenix, but they're a Western dealer for Pierce specifically. These are the engines we currently buy. I only bring them up because they're the ones working on it right now. So you'll probably go to other manufacturers as well. They said, tell us the base model that keeps the crews safe and can do the work, and spec it out for that. And if they get enough departments that want that spec, which is streamlined, and it's like when you buy your Tesla, you don't get 100 color choices. You get the 5 they have. Well, the fire truck business has 97 flavors of red at Pierce and 60 something colors of white that we get to choose for and that we kind of demand will be on our thing. So we're sort of a culprit with it. And I won't forgive the private equity part, but when we over specialize, it takes that vehicle off a standardized line configuration.
Buzz, I was at the Rosenbauer plant. And so for standard type 1, because they were having that very same discussion, 2 years. You go into a ladder, a tandem full ladder, 4 years. You want the electric fire truck, 1 year.
Oh. He said it, not me. So the standard, they can get a certain number, and it's all, again, early days. They just met in Phoenix at the Hughes dealership with the Pierce Manufacturing folks from Wisconsin. They will honor a certain number of Western fire departments. If we all agree, if you will, to use this spec, they'll change an entire line over for this spec, and we get them in 2 years. And your $1 million truck is $780,000 because they're telling you you don't need the add-ons. Well, that's today. But they showed us one that was, $800,000. And it had the stuff we would need. I don't want the crews to lynch us here, but, so we're looking at that. The salespeople are gonna meet with us. I'm hoping to bring them up to talk with the whole region's fire chiefs and mechanics. Just exploring this model. This is not unusual in other areas. If you want a John Deere tractor, you get the green one. You know, you can have a few add-ons. That's it. Wildland trucks have been doing this for quite some time. I talked to Todd Miranda, our Type 3 engine we bought. It was someone else's spec. They made very little changes and they didn't wait 5 years. So that's really good news, even though it appears so bleak when you have to buy them all the time. But I think we're going to explore that. Not a done deal yet. And lastly, speaking of Battalion Chief Miranda, I went to Arizona Burn Center Burn Symposium this past week, and one of the speakers was Todd Miranda, who discussed the wildland situation, the changing wildland situation, the ever-changing, as well as the implications as he saw them from being a medical unit leader, from being a line medic, from being all the things within the wildland realm, and he represented so well and so hesitant to compliment him. I was so impressed with his speech, and it was so well received with doctors and fire departments from all over Arizona, and it was fantastic, and Todd did a great job. So even though that's very recent and not technically last month, Todd did a great job and represented it. There you go. That's it.
Bravo, Todd.
He's too shy. He won't say it.
Shy.
So yeah, I apologize for going all over the place. There's obviously I need someone else to script this stuff for me because I care about it. I want you to know what we're up to, so it's okay.
It's all good.
Thank
So,
you.
Yeah, I can answer any questions if you dare.
Chief Baker.
All right, good afternoon. My slide, unlike Chief Coyle's, has a lot of words on it, so I apologize. Try to shorten that up next month. So extremely busy in training. We kind of had a little bit of a lull there for a month and a half I talked about. Now we're in it now. So it's extremely busy. The engineers, should say Engineers Academy complete. Under the first bullet item there, we had 17 individuals that were students in that Engineers Academy, which was an enormous class, plus a total of 7 instructors for a 3-day class, 30+ hours. And we were able to pull that off with the help of the battalion chiefs helping with filling shifts as they came up, division chiefs working on engines and ambulances so guys could go down to cover. So it was really a group effort, and we made it happen without shutting down any apparatus or running short. Everything was filled, everything was staffed. And all those individuals, I believe, got, from the feedback I received from it, a very comprehensive training that's going to benefit them, not only now, but in the future as they move up into an acting position and or test this spring. So to my knowledge, it's the first 3-day Engineers Academy we've ever done. We did day 1 here, and then next 2 were down at the Cottonwood Regional Training Center. So it was uninterrupted. They had the whole training grounds themselves and went really well. So proud of the training cadre for putting that on. They did a great job constructing objectives and outcomes for the training itself, and then the logistics of getting apparatus down there and moving people around. The training cadre did a great job, so kudos to them. 12-month probationary firefighters have completed, all 4 of them, as of last week, the written and practical evaluations that are required after their 12 months. So they are off probation, and to my understanding, some of them are getting moved already or will be moved here shortly as we start preparing to get the next 3 on board next month. So they all did a good job, and the crews are doing a great job with them putting in the training. It really shows during those evaluations. So it's a big step up the last few years. Going back to the engineers, there are 8 of them that have applied for the position task book review. So they initiate the task book as a firefighter. They have to go through a series of tasks and job performance skills. They have to get signed off by their company officer, at which time, once they meet that, all the educational requirements, minimum requirements for the job, they apply for a task book evaluation. That consists of a written test and hands-on practical portion where hopefully they pass, get signed off, and now they can move up into that role more consistently and officially on shift as a. We've got 8 individuals that are going through that process right now. Completed a written assessment 2 days ago. I don't know what is today, Tuesday, yesterday. For 5 of them, we got 3 more coming up on Thursday. So hopefully all 8 of them pass that written evaluation. And then next Monday and Tuesday, we'll be back down at the training center in Cottonwood for their hands-on portion. So just to give you an idea and put it in context, each evaluation takes approximately 3 to 3.5 hours per person to get that done. So we've got 8 individuals going through and we're going to try to get it done in 2 days. So they're going to be a couple of really long days. Again, a lot of individuals on the training cadre are stepping up to help out, and many hands make light work. So
Why shouldn't we look people to be move up engineers?
are you asking me? Yeah. Well, as I mentioned in that task book, there's a series of job performance skills that they have to demonstrate competency in. So not only does it help them better prepare for that position, but it also reduces liability on the district that we've got a series of standards and competency skills that they have to get signed off on and approved by before they're in that official capacity to drive to and from scenes and operate the engine or the ladder truck on those scenes itself.
It also, we have 15 fire apparatus operators or engineers. This task book process affords us the opportunity to add 5, 10, 15 more to the pool. So we have qualified drivers to cover when they're sick leave and vacations and things like that. So
yeah, so we've got 15 billeted spots for engineers, driver operators, and another 15.
a lot of them can move up in shifts. So there's a potential to reduce overtime, give them real world experience, and then give us more depth.
So, and I don't know the hours it takes to get those task books done, but it's a lot. The company officers are making time with the crews to get a lot of that training done. And a lot of time we can do cross training with new probationary firefighters and individuals that are looking to get those task books signed off for engineer at that same training, functioning in different capacities during that training, get those skills signed off. So, yeah, so hopefully next Tuesday afternoon, we'll have 8 more that are qualified to test for engineer. And if everybody that's qualified that has expressed interest in testing this spring, we're going to have 18 testing for the engineer position, which I think is the largest assessment center we've ever had in 4 years here. So
Great.
it's going to be quite the undertaking, but exciting that we have that many people that are
Get to run around with hose and tires.
Chief Coyle mentioned on November 3rd, we're starting our 3-week new hire orientation. So we've got 3 individuals that will be beginning that orientation. That's 150 hours of training in 3 weeks. So again, a lot of components that are involved in that, a lot of scheduling, logistics, and personnel. Training cadre from EMS to wildland to technical rescue to fire to extrication. We run them through a lot of IT training, get them set up on a lot of our platforms. So it's very comprehensive. You heard me talk about it in the past with the other academies, but once these 3 go through and finalize, that'll be 20 individuals we put through in 2.5 years. Just to give you an idea, quarter of our agency.
That's
In
great.
the last 2.5 years. So
The more the better.
a lot of new faces on the floor, a lot of training, but it's been good so far. I think very productive. So, yeah, that's it on that one. Oh, and during that, the first week we'll be completing the 4 6-month evaluations for the 4 individuals that are coming off their 6-month probationary period. So we'll get those 4 done, which will then free up 4 individuals to work overtime, because in their first 6 months, we like to keep them in pocket at their station before we send them out everywhere else. So they've got consistent crew, consistent supervisor with them at all times. Once they pass this 6-month eval, then they can start helping, rove to shifts or backfill shifts and move around the district a little more. So we'll be conducting those 4 individuals 6-month assessment the first week of the new hire academy as well. So a little bit busy. We'll get it done. It's a lot. It's a lot. Exciting wellness activity. We you've heard me talk about Solve Global in the past. It's the organization that we partner with our health insurance. It's free to employees. It's got physical therapists and the PT technicians. They reached out, and they want to start doing regular site visits at Sedona Fire, which I thought was great. So they have offices in Phoenix. They do virtual appointments, you know, in Prescott or up here, Flagstaff, wherever else our employees live. But they're going to start coming the second Tuesday of the month to Sedona Fire at Station 4 and be here between like 9 and 1, I believe. So employees can scan the QR code, make an appointment on or off duty, and come in and see them, and they'll do that free evaluation. If you've got something that's hurt or nagging you, or you're worried about something, wanting preventative care or exercises. So we'll get that more regularly scheduled starting the 2nd January in 2026, and then they'll be here every month.
That's
So,
great.
yeah, I'm excited about that. And they reached out to us, so it's good collaboration with them, and they're very proactive. Just
That's
another,
integrated into their fee.
it is. It doesn't cost our employees anything. It's no charge. Yep. So it's just another component of the wellness program that we're trying to help prevent injuries and or recover from injuries when they do occur and get employees back on the floor faster. Finally, the kind of the recruit aspect of what I do. We did have 2 members, so we've got a recruit team. Jordan Alessi, who was recognized tonight as a 5-year employee, wasn't here, has taken on the chair of that committee and has a group of individuals that are excited about recruitment and mentorship for individuals coming in and trying to get more of that talent pool when we test and get individuals here to test for us when those vacancies come up. So Jordan is chairing that committee, and he was one of the individuals that attended a professional day out at Cliff Castle Casino with some other professional organizations and represented Sedona Fire. Unfortunately, started raining on him. It's cut a little bit short, but all in all, he said it went well. They made some good contacts. We've printed up some new recruit cards with a QR code that scan and go right to our website for the employment information. So they got to hand out some of those. And they're, just like Rydell said, they're always looking for areas to go out and participate and interface with the public. And we're looking at, we got invited to go down to the Verde Valley Fair in May and maybe set up a table there, which there's thousands of people that come through there every year. So just looking for opportunities, and they're very eager to attend those, which is exciting for me and a lot of our younger employees. They know how valuable it's going to be when a lot of us leave to get us replaced with. And then finally, there's forget her name. One of the firefighters at Cottonwood Fire is putting on what she's calling a Trailblazing Academy on October 25th and 26th. So it's an all-female academy. The instructors, and it's for younger women in high school and maybe, I believe, college age that are looking at getting in the fire service. So they reached out, and firefighter Madeline Payton, she's been here for a couple years now, is on the recruit team as well. She's going to attend and help instruct that as well and represent Sedona Fire at that 2-day academy. So pretty exciting.
Right.
Excited to see how it goes, see what their attendance is. I think they're expecting quite a few. But that was exciting. It was neat. They reached out to us, and I was glad we were able to offer some of our new up and coming employees that are kind of standing out as high performers to assist in that training. So she will be attending, and I'll have some feedback in November on how that went. That's all I got. Hopefully that was short enough. Any questions?
Just a comment that I like the listing, the categories that you're going to speak about.
All right.
I want to see it shortened.
Okay. All right. Didn't want to make it too wordy.
Looks good. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Chief Mazulis.
All right, it's my turn. Before I dive into fire district financials, I sent the board an email and advised you all that we have signed in conjunction with legal and the insurance company the final documents for the Braun lawsuit, and they're going through the settlement proceedings right now, and then we'll get the final documents when that's done. And I just lost the name of what is the final thing called here. I think it's a notice of settlement. Yeah. But it's
There's no go backs right now. So
there's no go backs. There's no financial impact to the district relatively because the insurance company is managing the settlement, and it is, as Chief Quell stated, no go backs. We're on the way to being done with that. So now getting into what you're going to see over the next few months and what we have defined as the slow months, if any months are slow. Prior to budget season, I've been asked by some board members to get into doing a more deeper dive into district financials. And I thought it'd be appropriate, looking at the financial report and our liabilities category, that the major one is pension. And while many of you understand how a pension system works, I just wanted to touch base on a few things. And there's a couple documents that were prepared. So I'll start with PSPR's tier comparison and then the ASRS tier comparison. Now, as my prediction is that as we move forward in the years to come, some of these earlier tiers defined in these pension programs, those employees are naturally going to retire. And as we move forward with negotiation, wages, benefits, working conditions, the landscape will change to some degree, to be determined by the labor groups. But and the reason for that, I'll try to articulate to you in a moment. But from a human resource management standpoint, these are statutory prescribed pension tiers, and we just have to adhere to whichever one those folks are hired under. So as you see here, those hired before January 1 of 2012 are in the tier 1 program, and it's 20 years of service. You qualify for a pension program, and then you can enter the deferred retirement option program. And the employee contribution is a 7.65%, fixed rate. The tier 2 members, which were hired between January 12 and June of 17, they have a similar calculator. However, they have to do 25 years of service to qualify for the pension. And their contribution is an annually adjusted rate between 11 and 13%. So those members pay a little bit more for their employer contributions. And in tier 3, which takes a really smart person to explain, tier 3 is 17 till now, and quite frankly, 65% of our employee population now is tier 3 in operations. And they can take 2 trips. They can go down one route where they have to do 25 years and start qualifying for their pension at 55 as a defined benefit, or they can choose a different program, which is a hodgepodge of matched 401k contributions and other deferred things. And that system's more portable. And Gabe, jump in anytime and correct me if I'm wrong, but the working theory was our pension system poorly invested for a while, and part of the fix was tier 3. And with tier 3, they also sold the fact that a lot of the younger generation isn't doing 10, 15, 20 years at a job anymore. So the thought was, if there was another option to have a non-defined benefit, and it's a defined contribution program, that I just reverse those. Well, then
Defined benefit, defined contribution. Yeah.
So they can do 5 years here and say, this isn't my bag, and then get the money they put in and leave and go to another career. However, in my opinion, it de-incentivizes that 18-year-old young man or woman to jump into pursuing a career in the fire service, because they won't recognize a pension until they're 55. So they have to do a much longer career in order to accomplish that. So one of the conversations in the fire service right now is, do we shift recruitment efforts to 30-year-olds or somebody in that range? Because somebody that's had another career and wants to get into public safety, because then they kind of fall into a 25-year career path for a pension. So there's also the Professional Firefighters of Arizona. One of their key objectives this year is to work with the legislature to reevaluate the benefits of the tier 3 system. The reason I kind of describe all that, because when we talk about pensions and what benefits incentivize or give people purpose, it's for operations, it's not a one size fits all approach because they're paying different rates and there's different motivators. Now with our Arizona State retirement system, they went ahead and added some more complexity with 4 tiers. And so I think we have, because we went into the Arizona State retirement in the mid-teens, it was new to Sedona Fire non-operational employees. Most of our non-operational employees are tier 3. And then we've got like 1 or 2 that are in tier 1. And the essential big differences is prior to 2011, it was age plus years. If it equals 80, then you get your pension. And that formula has changed with tier 2 and 3 to 85 points. So that's more years of service, older age range. And then that after 2022, it's a calculator based on years of service, and there's qualifying benchmarks where you get a percentage of what you would get at a full retirement. It's a bit convoluted and it takes extensive experience to explain that. But the other thing that they did is with both PSPRS and ASRS in the newer tiers, they moved their payout to be equal to the highest 5 years or 60 months versus highest 36 months, which changes things as well, you know. And so when asked about our pension, we essentially have 2 pension programs, but within those we have 7 tiers. So as somebody who acts as the mediator with negotiations between the labor groups and the board, I predict we'll see some different modeling and to be determined, as I stated, but as the bulk of our membership and operations, at least, is not tier 1, the shift in what the asks are may change. And to add on to that, I'm a supporter of the pension. I think it's a great benefit and it's an incentive for people to get into this service. But I asked Gabe if he could do a quick kind of rundown of exactly what the pension liability means to us, because it's a huge chunk of money that we owe.
Before you do that,
Please.
can I ask a question? So these are most of our non-firefighter
Correct.
employees.
In Arizona State.
And- And it is Arizona State, so that we can't change the parameters for it.
No,
But I noticed that the employee contribution stays the same no matter what classification you are in. So if you're in a low-level classification making not much money, you're still paying 12%.
yes, 12% of whatever it is you're making.
That's a
And it's the reason a lot of municipalities will have pension systems, City of Tucson, City of Phoenix. The reason my understanding, I didn't make the decision, the reason we elected to go on Arizona State retirement for our non-operational personnel is its portability. They can work for the school, City of Sedona, the county,
Gotcha.
those are all ASRS employers. And so it was that, and we've seen people move on to other government entities in the county. But yes, we have no control over how this is managed.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think on the cusp of no control on how this is managed. So the district right now is sitting, as of our last audit, with about $28 million in pension debt between the 2 systems. The majority of that debt being at PSPRS. So I say the majority, 26 million of that debt. So and kind of Chief alluded to it earlier, years ago in the pension system, there were a number of things that went wrong, from a management standpoint. One, they were flat out day trading with pension funds, and lost about $1 billion in assets. There were, one of the things that we allow within our pension system is overtime to be pensionable wages. The problem we have with that is when somebody doesn't work a lot of overtime, and then has their last 3 years, and they work a lot of overtime in their last 3 years, which is the basis of their pension benefit, that also throws off, the assets and then the liabilities the plan's gonna have to carry, for that person. And so, a couple of years ago, I would say 3 or 4 years ago, the legislature changed the laws for fire districts, and allowed us to go out and refinance our pension debt, essentially go out, get a certificate of participation, to go out and get a debt and use that to refinance that debt. Because right now, PSPRS charges us 7.3% on that debt. At the time, the concept was, well, we can go out to the market and get a loan at 3% or 4% and save money, in that overall cost. And at that time, Sedona chose not to do that. What we have seen, and the problem with doing that is we're not refinancing a real debt. Okay, it is a unfunded actuarial assumed liability. So we are taking a number that is, made up through a series of actuarial calculations and going out and leveraging our assets against that debt. Whereas right now, it's essentially the tax base is what supports that pension debt. What we found with some of our clients now is some have had to leverage rolling stock, and have actually had to go through an amendment process to be able to then get rid of a truck that was totaled in a car accident. We have some that have leveraged their assets to the point where they need to go out and borrow money for new apparatus or facilities, but this debt has now leveraged their assets to the point where they don't have assets to go out and borrow against to get a new certificate of participation. The other thing is, back to the unfunded actuarial assumed liability, is the numbers have changed. And so they've gone out, they've gone out on the auspice of we paid off of our pension debt, and then that actuarial report comes out and the unfunded liability at PSPRS has now grown another $1.5 million. So, the way Sedona has chosen to manage this and has continued to manage this is to pay this off through our normal annual contribution. It's a component, our contribution rate's increasing. We're at like 49% now, but of that 49%, roughly 30% of that is our unfunded liability component of that, which we are paying on an amortization schedule of 15 years.
Is it a rolling 15 years?
So yes and no. On the previous year's debt, no, but if new debt gets added, then that is on a 15-year. So if you look at our actual amortization schedule within our actuarial, which is it's really fun reading, the majority of our debt is coming back from 2019, pre-2019. That's as far back as the schedule goes. And that's $18 million. And we've got 12 years remaining on that. But then on the most recent actuarial, we added $3 million to our unfunded balance. And that's at the 15-year mark. So these are those tier 1s and tier 2s that Chief had mentioned. Our tier 3 plan, which is the new plan, is actually overfunded by $13 million. The difference between the two plans is the $27 million in debt is all owned by Sedona. The $13 million in tier 3 is now a statewide pool plan. And so we start to see something very similar to what we see from a management within ASRS, where we have a much lower unfunded liability, much more stable plan, less individual department risk as it's spread across the entire state. And so
We get interest on that 13 million we're overfunded.
so the plan, so not really, I mean, where the benefit is on that, the plan, that the assets of the plan, are essentially, growing, and not at, not doesn't have, don't carry liability. It's not like it's money sitting in the bank above and beyond what's really in the bank. You know what I mean? So when you look at that plan, that plan's got 178 million in assets. And so that's where it's just what the actuarials have calculated of the liability of that plan to be is $13 million less than assets.
I'm only asking because we're getting charged interest for
Yeah.
a similar kind of actuarial, non-existent
Agreed.
pool of money.
Yeah.
Now, the only sunshine that and correct me if I'm wrong, the potential exists because of how well the plan's been doing is that, you mentioned that 49% rate, it might get lowered this year. And that would be a decision point where we say, let's not lower it, let's pay off more, maybe reduce that 15-year, but with a station and other needs, is that it'll probably be 2.1%. Would it be worth trying to pay down that pension debt sooner? And that's a philosophical discussion for budget season. But and then the number keeps changing year over year.
Yeah, and frankly, that right there is the hardest piece to this, and the hardest piece to manage is, when I look at pension systems and, not that we deal with a lot of pension systems, but we've got 2 here in the state of Arizona that we work with, and we've got 1 in Colorado that we work with. 2 out of those 3 have very little fluctuation in unfunded liability, very little fluctuation in contribution rates, and 1 has drastic swings. And it's hard to sit there and me as an advisor to these boards say, okay, well, let's start throwing more money at this. When in a year from now, we could sit here and we could say, you know what? We don't need to build Station 4. Let's take $5 million and throw it at this. And then we come back in a year and our unfunded liability grew by another $4 million, even after we put our $5 million into it. And then until we see some kind of stabilization, which I don't know if we will, until literally our tier 1 and tier 2 employees completely fall off, it doesn't make sense to do much more than what we're doing. If we do have excess, just reserve that excess for at that point in time when we do need to utilize that money. It does make sense to utilize that money. We have it within our coffers to pay that down.
What makes us fall off? When we leave? Or-
Yes.
I didn't have that question.
Leave, when you leave, sorry.
So we've got 40, realistically 40 years before we recognize the tier 1 liability going away.
That's true.
I'm gonna make you wait even longer. Yeah, hopefully.
But thank you, because that is very difficult for me to explain in a way that it is understandable.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And the rationale for not taking that perhaps reduction that we might see from the 49% down to 47, what I'm hearing is the rationale is it doesn't make sense to feed it into the unfunded liability. No, it doesn't.
I would agree with that. That would be a decision for the board when we get there, but we don't, it's in the ether right now. Oh, we're looking at a reduction this year. Well, okay, we'll see. Yeah, until it happens.
And, I'm sorry, this is not my wheelhouse, but like, if you look at what you would get on an ETF in the stock market on a return, if you kept it there, didn't fuss with it, highs, lows, everything else, and then you look at what we did, and it's like known. I mean, it's been the same thing for 50 years. Because you don't try to anticipate those things. Even experts aren't good at it. I mean, that's the whole reason the problem exists. The primary reason. And they're like, let's just move your numbers again. It's not like you guys be in charge of numbers.
I hope those who dug the hole are spending a lot of time behind bars.
I think they got to leave with quite a bit of grace. As a matter of fact.
Really?
Yeah. Best luck.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's our pension system. In a nutshell, I'm happy to answer questions now or in one-on-ones, but like I said, one of my big takeaways is as we progress down the road, 5-10 years, I think the pension system may drive some of what our employee groups ask for as far as benefits go, because there are different classes of people. You can call them tiers if you want to, but we have different classes of citizens that are employed in the same job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So that's thing one. Capital project updates. I didn't anticipate to have these ready for you, so it's not agendized, but as stated before the meeting, these are very early conceptuals based on feedback from our Station 4 committee, industry standards, district defined needs and things of that nature. So more to come. What this piece of the process does do for us, it gives core construction enough information to get us some realistic pricing. So they anticipate by Thanksgiving, don't know if we'll make it by next month, but by December, we'll have what I believe to be very accurate depiction and very accurate numbers for the board to discuss. But I just could not put this up because it's pretty stinking cool. So, other capital projects. So I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. Yeah. And then fire away. So there's some documents in here. The first page is titled Zetron. And did this make it into the slideshow?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought. So, okay, so next slide. So Zetron is our radio systems replacement program that you guys have been periodically funding pieces of over the past 18 months. And now design for our,
What is a Zetron?
it's the company. Yeah, it's Zetron Codan. The design, that's a misrepresentation. The design happened, the design phase happened, and now by design now they mean specifically which components are going in which rack. It's getting down to the wires and the boxes and the equipment. And in the scope, we're now fine tuning a couple sites that were potentials before. Now that there's information, we can work with the police department to fine tune some of those sites that we don't currently have. And this project schedule timeline will develop after a couple more components happen, which we'll discuss in discussion possible action. And then costs. This is a happy place. The costs we talked about last year are aligning still. That makes me very happy. So overall project statuses were in the green. So next slide. The next slide. So yeah, PDRs, the preliminary design review is almost complete. And then we'll move on to critical design review. And I don't want to anchor into a timeline, but I anticipate by January. And then next slide. And then system build and test. So it's up in the Seattle area. Once they have all the components, they're locally sourced. They're doing systems all over the United States. So it's not like, okay, now we order. They've already got preliminary ideas of what they need. So they'll build all of these racks, these IT racks in Seattle, and they ship them down in containers, and we'll stage and then prepare for install. So there's system shipment. And then system shipment, and then we're going to find it. We have a couple locations. We're going to co-locate equipment, stage it, ready to go. And then our folks and the representatives from Zetron, you can go to the next one. We'll get everything installed. And then I don't want to misrepresent the facts, but it's my understanding there'll be a couple days where it's just all hands on deck. Standing by the big power switch, and then Bob goes on the radio and says thumbs up, and then they trigger it, and then the system goes live. And anticipate, I'll bump to September of 26 just to give a couple months buffer, but anticipating without any big issues, we go live mid to late summer. So go to the next slide. And then system cutover, and then part of the components is them working with our radio folks, Justin and Johnny and Bob, to really dial on the system. And then system performance, system burn-in, they got a lot of fancy terms for how they do all this. And then so the point of these slides is they don't just set it and forget it, drop off the stuff and leave. They work through the bugs with us and get our folks dialed in on our system, and before they step out, and final acceptance. And then I believe that's the last slide. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So with that, as if you recall, we also, you approved the purchase of new generators and air conditioning units to support the environment at those sites and give redundant power. And, Scott can test to the timelines on that.
Yeah, so we're actively installing the air conditioning units currently. We just installed one up at Mingus today. There's one more follow-up. Thursday, we're going to Schnebly Hill, installing the last PC units up there. So within the next week or two, we should have that piece of the project done. Today, we're installing the generator at the airport. That seems to be going really well. I was learning about sine waves and, well, you know about those things for sure. But we had some issues as in the transfer. They came up with a really good plan to transfer power and run a generator. The generators don't provide pure power. So Bob's been up there all day watching equipment. The city of Sedona has some issues with their internet because the power's not pure. The batteries are, so they were balancing that out. But the install's going well. Station 3 is next week. Fortunately, the last 3 generators, which are Schnebly Hill, Mingus, and then Station 4 at the telecom site, are pushed back 30 days. There are manufacturing issues with the motors.
Supply chain.
Supply chain issues. And so hopefully those will still come in. If the weather is La Nina-ish, a little while longer, maybe we can get Schnebly and Mingus installed. Those are moving along, and the electrician we've got and the team we've got doing this seems to be working well. I'm happy.
And, excuse me, you have the slides available to you. If you want me to go through the response slides, I can. If not, we can move on to the next discussion and action items in the interest of time.
Just out of curiosity, sorry, what is a special incident?
Yeah, oh,
I think 9 is the 900 out of district.
Yeah.
Out of district. It may take me a minute.
Okay, well, I
Yeah.
can tell me
Yeah.
offline, that's all.
And I think it's worth always seeing the response times.
well, I asked because the slides are made available to the board, so, in the interest of time, if you have any questions, we can go over them, but if not, I just, looking at the data, I'd be happy to go through each of them, but I was just looking at, I made a promise to some board members to keep these as succinct as possible.
Anything.
So, and really, the expectation is that members review the times and I obviously review them, and if there's a massive discrepancy or a change, that would be a reportable in my mind. Like, hey, listen, our ambulance response time have gone up 5 minutes. That's notable. Here's why. But year over year, we stay pretty consistent.
The turnout time went up nicely down a few seconds.
Yeah,
It's always worth
and I don't,
noting.
that kind of interests me. Seconds could be like if they're sitting back in their chair and had to lean forward and dispatch to hit the button, or if they were already in the console, so. But it's large jumps that really red flag us, and like I said, with the interfacility transports and all that stuff, it's really looking at our road time and kind of benchmarking that, because that's the critical stuff. But that is the end of the chief's report. If there aren't any further questions.
And I take it to no purchase orders over 10,000.
I believe so.
Okay. All right,
I'm going through my head. No.
so we have possible approval of the community risk reduction fee schedule. Kurt, it's your time. It's your turn.
I apologize. I did learn something tonight that I did not know, and now I do know.
Yeah. And I wasn't clear. It was clear that I wasn't clear.
So, we talked about this a few times in the past, but earlier this year, Chief of Lewis came to us at CRR and had me get with Fire Marshal Nate Bailey, who's Fire Marshal for Birdie Valley Fire and Copper Canyon, to align our fee schedules with their fee schedules. So basically, it's one-stop shopping. So we don't have something different, and they have something different. They have something different. The contractors know when they come into us or they come into there that it's what's going to cost, instead of 3 different prices for every single thing out there. The good thing that did come out of this too is, as we looked them over and went line by line, item by item, there were things that we didn't have in our fee schedule that they had in theirs, and vice versa. And also some things that we thought that we probably weren't charging enough, covering our inspection fees, our planner fees. We kind of aligned everything together. And it's been a lot of meetings, and I like to, so not just me and Nate, but Carla and Brian in the office too, all kicked in, part of putting a lot of time into this. And a lot of grief. We got her done, so. That. We came forward to ask if we can approve this, and the other two boards have approved this already, Verde Valley and Copper Canyon. Have already had the board meetings, and they approved our fee schedule the way we've got it promoted.
Are there any questions for Chief Riddell?
Just a thank you.
Yeah.
For the, no doubt, many hours.
Who's the last one that was updated?
2017.
That's a big deal.
But, and no, nothing against those that have updated in 2017. Part of the process was Kirk ripped a lot of our fees. He couldn't find a spot to anchor into why we charge what we charge. If that makes sense. So it was like, let's do $100. And one is we need to be proactive and supportive of our customers. And part two is every time Carla or Kirk or John or Brian get a phone call, how come your fees are $50 more than Copper Canyon's? What else do you do that's better than what they do? And when you don't have an answer for that time and time and time again, it's just not good customer service.
Comments or questions?
And the last thing, this was planned to go live January 1. That was the intent.
And I want to add to that beyond them working together extensively, we did a community outreach event with local contractors. And that January 1st date was born out of that was their only pushback on this fee schedule change, was that, can you give us till January 1st so that we can announce to our customers, hey, this bid is good until this date. And because they incorporate the fees into their, so that was our give to the customers that we serve.
That's great.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve the new CRR fee schedule that aligns with the IGA with the Copper Canyon and Verde Valley Fire Districts. Do I have such a motion?
Move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Rick, you got your new fee schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Big lift.
Yeah. Okay. The next one I think we have is the one on possible approval to expend funds in an amount not to exceed $49,250 to the Pegasus Telecommunications Consulting Group to support the FCC licensing work required to continue the communication system upgrade. Chief, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, Bob provided an extensive description of the why. I want to anchor into, again, this is a not to exceed price, and 17,500 of it is going to be invoiced to the Sedona Police Department. So while the totality of this not to exceed price is in my spending authority, I thought since it was $800 off of my cap, we ought to bring it to the board. If we extracted the Sedona amount, it's well within my spending authority, but I wanted to park on this for a minute, just one, for transparency, and two, learning a lot. And you don't go to frequencies.com and buy a frequency. And so we have our current existing frequencies, and then we need to acquire some new frequencies for the totality of this radio project. And some other local government entities have abandoned frequencies, but abandoned doesn't mean they're available, but they are available. But if you go for one of them and without the full FCC understandings, then that other agency didn't quite abandon these frequencies, then you bottle up a bunch of time and then you're not approved for that new frequency because it's taken, but it's listed as available. It's convoluted. And after much explanation from Mr. Moats, I agree with his assessment that having somebody that does this day in and day out to properly license, update, and register all of our frequencies and Sedona PD frequencies so that everything is prepared, it is a critical thing. And secondary to that, when I talked about timeline for the radio stuff, this licensing piece is the locked door to move forward. Because they can't, the equipment's so specific to the frequency needs that they can't move forward with speccing the equipment until they get all the frequencies dialed in. So as stated in here, Bob did an incredible job describing why he needs what he needs and why it's very difficult for him to do it, and I support it.
Any questions? So I move to approve the expenditure of funds in the amount not to exceed $49,250 to the Pegasus Telecommunications Consulting Group to support the FCC licensing work required to continue the communication system upgrade. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That's your expenditure
All
for
right,
for Pegasus.
thank you.
And now we have Elise in the cooperative purchasing agreement.
Softball. Yeah, this is softball.
Well, so it's a consortium in the state agreement that is part of the board. You can see a lot of different fire districts as part of it. Essentially, what it allows us to do is utilize other district agencies' contracts to get their pricing, terms, services. The reason it came about was the HVAC person we used said, hey, I've got great contracted prices through Save already with, I think, the city of Glendale, and the city of Sedona too, and asked if we would be interested, but we need to be part of the Save consortium before we can utilize any of those already negotiated contracts. So part of it is we have our own kind of individual contract with the with which the HVAC company, which we utilize, and we can put in cooperative agreement language into our future contract. Seems like an efficient, easy way for us to get some cheaper prices or more reasonable prices in contracts and services and goods. And all it requires is great, it just requires a signature.
So I have to have a question.
Yeah.
Do we have the ability, if we can get a cheaper price outside of it, that there's no restriction for our not?
We don't have to buy out.
Exactly.
We're not.
We are not bound to utilizing it. It's just one of the tools in our toolbox we can use to see if there's better prices out there.
And I'll give an example of when I was first started ordering EMS supplies. One of our vendors the company started in Tempe, Arizona. He asked me one time, because I was asking about updated pricing, he says, why aren't you on the Tempe contract? I said, I don't know what the Tempe contract is. He's like, oh, since we started in Tempe, we have this discount and you can get on the Tempe contract. And that was, I now know part of SAVE, but I would have never known about it had we not been a member of SAVE to get the emails and the updates. So as she stated, it's a no cost, it's not an obligation, but it opens the doors for us. And it simplifies the procurement process a little bit, because then we can just hit it and say, oh, so-and-so's got a HVAC contract, so-and-so's got a whatever contract, and it's.
And basically, we're just going to be enabling a greater economies of scale when it comes to purchasing.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken,
No
we also
brainer.
can apply purchasing.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's essentially a competitive bid process that's already gone on for the agencies that are within the save on the contracted rates that are in there. So, Scott's trying to alluding to is it saves us on that purchasing process from the competitive bid on certain things because it's already been competitively bid. It's no different than, the one I think everybody's heard of, the Houston Galveston purchasing cooperative. It's just another version of that.
Diana?
Yeah, when
I'd
there's
like
no
to,
purchase.
I'd like to move that we, join in strategic for volume. We're not purchasing.
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay. So we will approve the strategic alliance for volume expenditures
Yeah,
cooperative
I get the
purchasing
vote.
agreement. Yes. Do you second that?
Yeah, I did.
That's all right. So any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Part of save.
Job is saved.
All right.
And already saved.
Okay, so now we're down to board member updates and ideas for future meetings. I have one item and then I'll open it up. The one item, everybody should have received a copy of the board's annual calendar. And this is a draft. Okay, thank you. And if you have any questions, additions, please let me know. The goal is so that everybody on the board and also our administrative staff know what's coming, what month, when.
Wonderful.
Okay,
That's awesome.
you're very welcome. Okay, so that's out there for comment. If I don't get any comments within the next 2 weeks, I'll send you a version that doesn't have draft on it.
And we're pretty efficient at removing the watermark if needed.
No, okay.
Now, the only comment I had is, I noticed in December, it's the swearing in of new board members, and last time around, we were vacillating between December and January.
Right.
But it's December's good.
I
The
thought,
month after election.
yeah, I thought,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Excellent.
Okay, so other comments from board members, other things that board members would like to see in board meetings or just open comment.
I've done that.
Okay, all right. Well, with that, this meeting is adjourned.